So we have arrived at the end of the PS2 trilogy of the series because the last 3 games on the PS2 are just spin-offs. Not really sure when I'm going to get to the other games in the series, but I didn't want this marathon getting too long, so I just decided to look at the first 3 games on the PS2. Anyway, Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal was released in November of 2004, and around this time Ratchet and Clank were one of the biggest PlayStation mascots along with Jak and Daxter for the PS2. There are tons of magazines, and there was even a contest for fans to create their own weapons, and they will have an opportunity to get them in the game. Off the top of my head, I don't think I've seen any other franchise do something like that before. Like, could you imagine being a huge Ratchet and Clank fan back in 04, and being able to send your own concept of your very own weapon, and then see the weapon that you created in the game? I know I would have completely lost my shit if I was that kid. So of course, this game would probably be one of the most hyped games in the series, probably just as much as Ripped Apart. And with people loving Going Commando so much, it was kind of hard to see what they could add to make it even better. But before we start with the review, remember how in Crash and Spiral there would be demos of a game in the other series? Well, they actually did the same thing here, but this time it's slide 2. Just go into the selection menu and hold on to L1, L2, and R1 and R2. You'll be able to play through the demo of slide 2. Don't know if there's any demos of Ratchet or Sly in Jak 2 or 3, but it's cool that even with the switch of the next generation, these guys are still teasing each other's games, but this time Sucker Punch is getting in on it. But now let's stop wasting time. So we start off with Ratchet and Clank playing chess, but then Clank's new show, Secret Agent Clank, comes on, with Clank as a secret agent and Ratchet as his chauffeur. Then change the channel and find out that Ratchet's home planet is a danger, and then they rush back to Veldin. I think one of my favorite things about Ratchet's personality is that he'll always fight for his home planet. I really like that about him. Anyway, they get caught in between a war, and Ratchet becomes a part of the Galactic Rangers. After defeating a swarm of Terranoids, Bill Clinton, and I know he has an actual name, but he might well be called Bill Clinton, told them that the person who might be responsible for this attack on Veldin might be because of Dr. Nefarious and his assistant, Lawrence. With no one else able to defeat him other than Korg, Ratchet and Clank go and find Korg, and unfortunately, it seems like he lost his memories and has become a monkey. The dude would then take him to the Starship Phoenix and then lock him up in a cage. Then they meet Sasha Firenix, the captain of the vessel, and a possible love interest for Ratchet. So remember Angela from the last game? Yeah, she never shows up nor is ever mentioned again in this game, and it's kind of a running theme for this series, so this is kind of normal. Even then, it's not like these two ever really show any real affection to each other. I mean, she kisses Ratchet twice and tells him to be careful when the Phoenix is under attack, and Ratchet does ask her to marry her, but that's pretty much it. So when Ratchet plays a vid comment thanks to Al, Korg then regains his memories back and thus reforms the Q-Force, and comes up with a plan to infiltrate Nefarious' base, land Aquados, but these plans usually involve Ratchet doing all the work and him taking all the credit. So the Starship Phoenix is kind of the game's main hub world. I think it kind of works for this game because you have some stuff to do while you're here, like interacting with other characters, VR training, and playing the Korg vid comics. You'll talk to characters like Sasha, Skid McMarks, and Al, but that's pretty much it. And with this being a Ratchet and Clank game, the character interaction are probably one of the best parts of the game. The writing and humor are even better than the last 2 games, possibly combined. Obviously, the new villain, Dr. Nefarious, being the highlight. It's pretty clear that his voice actor, Armin Shimmerman, was having a lot of fun with the character, because he just brings a lot of energy to this guy. Like, there was a lot of times where I was laughing out loud because of him. His voice and line delivery was just amazing in this game.
I have a present for you, Snicky Wickums.
Ah! I told you to stop calling me that! I have far grander plans for you. All right, Lawrence, you can turn it off now.
Remember how I used to clean the chalkboard with your pants while you were still wearing them? Oh, good times.
You were 3 times my size, you stupid hoe!
I was always big for my age.
You were 26! I am defeated! I have no choice but to throw myself on your mercy!
Really? I mean, that's right, Nefarious. Your reign of terror is finally...
Sucker! What? That wasn't even close to 60 seconds! I have a galaxy to conquer, so our game must end here. It's a shame you won't live long enough to see the rest of your kind exterminated. Well, you get the idea.
So anyway, Up Your Arsenal had a pretty interesting development cycle, to say the least. It had up to 115 people working on it, and they were listening to all the feedback that fans and critics so they can fix as much as they can from the last two games, and here's the final product. So unlike the last two games that focus more on exploring new worlds, Up Your Arsenal has a more focus on combat, seeing that it's a lot more easier to upgrade your weapons in this game than it was in Going Commando. Even though I missed the exploration heavy route that Ratchet 1 and Going Commando did, I think this take to the normal Ratchet and Clank gameplay is better, since the series was mostly about straightforward levels while killing as many enemies in your path, whether it's with your wrench or a weapon. This is also better since this game probably has the most weapons in the entire series, with 20 new weapons. Let's run on the list. First is the Shock Blaster, which shocks enemies in blank point range. There's the Nitro Blaster, which fires a mildly strong grenade and has a decent sized blast radius. The Plasma Whip, which is pretty self-explanatory. The Annihilator, which shoots out missiles. The Spitting Hydra, which can target 3 enemies at a time. The Disc Blade Gun, which shoots out disc blades. The Flux Rifle, which is probably one of the most powerful weapons in the game. And the Rift Inducer, which can shoot out a rift or something. I don't know. I don't really use this weapon that much. And just like last time, you can upgrade these weapons to make them more powerful, but unlike last time, you can upgrade them 4 more times, and to make this new feature even better, you can buy the weapons from Going Commando from Incognito, so for all you who love the bouncer weapon, you can use it again, but this time with new upgrades. You also get 2 new power-ups, the Bolt Multiplier, which multiplies the bolts you get by 2 times, and the Inferno power-ups, which make your attack stronger, but you can't use your weapons while you're in this form. Then there are other gadgets. The Slingshot returns and you don't need to equip it this time, but you also have the Reflector, which allows you to do laser-based puzzles, the Terrasguise, which turns you into a Terranoid and allows you to interact with other Terranoids so they can perform specific tasks for you. And finally, there's your Hacker, which a lot of people don't like because of how there's a lot of rounds and it can get monotonous. But personally, I actually like them. I mean, sure, they're not really puzzles, but I think it's pretty fun getting all the greens and destroying all the reds. I also just like doing it as fast as possible too. Most of the stuff that Going Commando introduced are back. You can level up by defeating as many enemies as you can. You can purchase armor from the vendors, and a lot of the other missions like the sandboxes and battle arenas come back too. The latter being just as fun as the last game, and the former, which I personally don't really care about. I mean, they're better here than they were in the last game, but I just can't really bring myself to enjoy them. And of course, there's always something that breaks up the regular Ratchet platforming. Clank levels return, and I feel like that I shouldn't have to say anything here. They're still a pace breaker in my opinion. This time, instead of a hammer and bridges, you have a banana gun, which of course Monkey Sidekick can get in order to open pathways for you to either get shot by a saucer or press a button. There's also a section where you get to play as Giant Clank, only this time it's not as tedious as it was in the last game, thank fucking god. Next there is the Battle Zone, which is something that people don't seem to like about this game. And to be fair, I will agree that these can get a little bit repetitive with just destroying the enemies over and over again. But I actually think that they're kind of fun when you're not in the ship or in a turret. The only thing that I don't like about them is the fact that the extra missions aren't optional, so you have to do all the missions to progress. But other than that, I don't really think that they're that intrusive. Running out the mini-games of the Quirky Vid comics, they're pretty much a 2D platform segments, and I personally think they're pretty fun, even though they are pretty easy and can be completed in about 3 to 5 minutes. I think it's a pretty good compromise for the lack of platforming in the main game. So yeah, I kinda like a lot what people disliked about Ratchet 3's gameplay. I personally think that out of the 3 games, this one has a better design, since it doesn't really include as many mini-games as Going Commando, and when there are, I'm still able to enjoy most of them than the last time. It also helps that Up Your Arsenal has a more adaptive difficulty system than the last 2 games. It will start off pretty moderate in its difficulty, but then it ramps up as the game goes on, and I think that kind of difficulty didn't really exist in the first 2 games. I mean, sure, you'll die a couple of times in the battle zones, and checkpoints are still pretty scattered, but I think this game beats out Going Commando in my opinion. The graphics are still very good looking, plants are as beautiful as ever, backgrounds are gorgeous, and it's all a good looking game. The character models are way more expressive than they were before. They look really smooth and have more fluid movements. And the Secret Agent Clank segment just look beautiful. Like, I don't know if it's FMV or not, but I like it. At this point, I don't think I have to say anything about the music. David Berger did a fantastic job again, keeping the same musical themes throughout the entire trilogy, electronic music and some bass. There's even some remixes from the first game. great soundtrack. I really don't have anything else to add. Anyway, Ratchet and Clank 3 has an online and offline multiplayer function, and apparently it was pretty fun. At least from what I heard of, because the PS2's online function is kind of dead now. But from what I heard, it's a pretty fun mode where you and a friend can run around in these open areas where you can fight each other and take over points of a map. But to be honest, if I was able to play this game online back then, I doubt I would ever take the opportunity. So the main gimmick collectibles are the titanium bolts this time, working like they did in the last two games. So in that regard, there's nothing really to talk about. For the titanium bolts, you can buy new skins for Ratchet like his old design in the first game, or Snowman. I don't really like this use of the bolts a lot because most of the skins are kind of visually boring to me. But to be honest, it is kind of funny seeing Ratchet running around in a tuxedo. So next we have New Game Plus, working the same way it did in the last game, with a bolt multiplier and the new version of your weapons where you can upgrade even further. Although I'm a little bit confused why you can only upgrade to level 8, but it doesn't really hinder the experience in my opinion. The Insomniac Museum comes back once again, where once you find all the trophies or play the game at 3 AM. Again, there's a lot of cool debugging and taking out content, but this time you don't have any access to a playground, which I found pretty disappointing, but I'll let it slide. I think I've spent enough time rambling about the gameplay, so let's wrap up the story. Although there's been some ups and downs regarding how the game plays, the story's third act is actually pretty good and has a great ending. So you haven't played the game yet and you want to avoid spoilers, I'll give you the next 5 seconds to click on this timestamp. So once Ratchet and Clank infiltrates Nefarious' database, they find out that he has a new weapon called the Bio-Obliterator, but they can't find anything about it. The two also find a music video made by Courtney Gears, which is a pretty obvious reference to Britney Spears, and says some pretty suggestive things during her boss fight. So in the song, she pretty much told the robots to kill all humans, organic life forms. Thinking that she might have something to do with Nefarious' plan, they enter a battle arena where Gears finally meets up with Ratchet and Clank. Clank takes her to the set of her show only to knock him unconscious and hand over to Nefarious, who apparently thinks that his TV show counterpart is real. He tries to convince him to join his rebellion on organic life form, and Clank pretty much tells him to go fuck himself. So then he decides to make an evil clone of himself called Clunk, and you can tell that he's the evil clone because his eyes turn red. Ratchet confronts Courtney Gears while Sasha locates the Levy Zone, which is Nefarious' ship. So when Ratchet, Clank, Quark, and Scratch the Monkey infiltrate his ship, Nefarious says, "Gotcha, bitch!" and rakes his ship to explode. Quark thinks that he left something behind, and the rest of them just left them there to die, but after the Protospec stuff in the last game and leaving Ratchet and Clank to die in the first game, he kinda deserved that. Back to the Starfix Phoenix, the rest of the Q-Force decided to pay homage to him.
Quark's loss is a true tragedy. The man was a hero, brave, honest, kind, and humble to the core.
What a load of bullshit.
Captain Quark may be gone, but his indomitable spirit of heroism lives on in each of you.
Meanwhile, Nefarious is a full-on assault on Metropolis, using his Bio-Obliterator to turn everyone into his robot soldiers. He then orders Clank to kill Ratchet, but he's able to take care of him, and finally Ratchet and Clank are reunited and swear to take out Nefarious. They then find out that Quark is still alive and faked his death, but also reveal that he's a giant pussy. The Starship Phoenix is under attack by Nefarious' minions. Clank then destroys the Bio-Obliterator with the ion cannon, but is then told by Sasha that there's an even more powerful one that he's gonna use on planet Elden. Of course, Ratchet isn't having that shit, so the duo decided to go on to the final level, and it's a great final level. It puts all your skills to the test, there's very aggressive enemies, and this is probably the only other time you'll be able to use the Tower Skies. After doing all that, Ratchet and Clank confront Nefarious and are able to defeat him, but he activates the Bio-Obliterator and turns into a giant robot. Before he can crush the two, Quark flies him to distract them, giving the duo an opportunity to destroy the Bio-Obliterator. And then to do just that, they show up to a screening of the latest Secret Agent Clank movie. Ratchet gets a kiss from Sasha, Clank is almost violated by a monkey, and Nefarious is trapped on an asteroid drifting off to space. And that was Ratchet and Clank, Up Your Arsenal. You know, I'm gonna be honest, I came out liking this game a lot more than I thought it would. To be completely honest, I was going into the Ratchet and Clank trilogy thinking I was gonna like Up Your Arsenal the least because of the hacker puzzles, the battle zone missions, or it was more combat based rather than platforming. But it was the complete opposite. I really enjoy the focus on combat in this game, even though I still do like the non-linear approach the other games to win, but I still really like it here. So after playing this game, this might be my favorite in the trilogy. Maybe my favorite game in the series so far, even though some people will disagree with me on that. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Ratchet and Clank 1 and Going Commando are bad games, they're not. In fact, they're fantastic games, but Ratchet and Clank 1 isn't the most user-friendliest game out there, so I would recommend you to play that game in the last of the PS2 trilogy. Going Commando, while being an amazing direct sequel, the other segments just kind of feel unnecessary and just didn't really need to be in there, in my opinion. I know some people don't really like Up Your Arsenal because of how it doesn't really have these sections. I don't really mind them not being in this game. I'd rather just play Ratchet and just blow up anything that moves, so I don't really mind there not being as many mini games in this game. The gameplay is pretty fun and addicting, the graphics are a vast improvement over the rest of the trilogy, and the story is subjectively the best out of the trilogy once it gets going, with a couple of serious moments to balance out a lot of the humor. I hear that people don't really like how there's not as many character interactions with random people in this game like in the other two games. While I do kinda miss those, but to be honest, when you have a villain like Nefarious that's on the screen for the majority of the time, that's kind of tough to be highlighted, to be honest. So I'd really recommend this game. It's a pretty fun game, and caps off the trilogy with a great ending. So that's the entire Ratchet and Clank trilogy. So the true question that's on everyone's mind is, do these games still hold up? And I think the answer is pretty obvious. Definitely. All 3 games hold up in their own kind of way. The first game is the start of a beautiful friendship, the second game is the rise to being heroes, and the third game makes them pretty much badasses. I heard that the PS3 remasters have some technical glitches, so I think the best experience of these games might be on the PS2. And now finally, where did Ratchet and Clank go after this? Well, like other PlayStation franchises, Insomniac was originally going to move on to other games, and they actually did. I mean, games like Resistance for the next generation, but they decided to go back to Ratchet and Clank, and would make 11 other games in the series. Ratchet and Clank would also appear in Sony Smash Bros. And PlayStation Wii Party, but that's pretty much it. And they're still making new other games that are not Ratchet and Clank today, like new Spider-Man games. Even with those other games, it seems like the Ratchet and Clank series is just as strong as it ever was, with Rift Apart getting a lot of praise. And after playing the original PS2 trilogy, I can comfortably say that I'm now a Ratchet and Clank fan. I know you guys already want me to review the other games in the series already, but don't worry, I'll get to them soon. But first, I will have to get to the rest of the games so I can review them. So since I looked at Jak and Daxter and Ratchet and Clank, there's only one more series in the Sony platforming trio on the PS2, but don't worry, I'll get to those games soon. I just need a little bit more time. Anyway, that's it for the Ratchet and Clank marathon, so I want to thank you all for being so patient while I was working on all these reviews, and I just want to tell you all that I have a couple more reviews planned for the rest of July and August before Spell Month begins in September. So with all that being said, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.